General Abdulsalami Abubakar, Nigeria's former military head of state, has expressed grave concerns over the country's worsening economic hardship, describing it as getting out of control. Now, in a meeting with the Campaign for Democracy and Human Rights in Minna, Niger State, he highlighted the struggles of Nigerians to afford basic necessities like food and transportation. To address the crisis, he proposed that the government provide affordable food options by buying and selling essential items at lower prices.
Additionally, he urged peaceful protests ahead of the planned End Bad Governance demonstrations on October 1st, cautioning against violence and looting. The Campaign for Democracy and Human Rights sought Abubakar's assistance in pressing the federal government to tackle the economic hardship and hunger plaguing the nation. Now, joining us is the Managing Director, Financial Nigeria Magazine and Director, Nigeria Development and Finance Forum, Jide Akintunde. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
All right.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Great to have you. I mean, I'm sure that everybody, most people would agree with Abdulsalami Abubakar, and of course, the current economic realities that Nigerians are facing. But what, many people are hoping that they would hear is some level of comfort, and to assure Nigerians that, this is only temporary, like the government has continued to say, and we're on the right path. Things will get better in just a little, while. Do you agree with that? Do you think that where we are, from what you see, this is only just going to be for a couple of months? In a very, very short while, Nigerians will be, living a lot more comfortable and, of course, enjoying, life in Nigeria?
Okay, I actually don't think that we see on the horizon things getting better in Nigeria in any foreseeable future. It is good to be hopeful, but you have to anchor hope on substance. And when we look at the substance that we have seen in terms of economic governance in Nigeria, it just doesn't rise to the level that should assure that what we have seen in the past 1 year plus will lead to a good place. In fact, it is the opposite that we're seeing. Hardship has continued to intensify, even as the government has continued to intensify the policies that are causing this hardship. The place to start, of course, and something that everybody can relate to, is the price of petrol. So when the administration came in last year, it immediately announced that there would be an increase in the pump price of petrol through the removal of subsidy, and the price increased by nearly 300%. And we saw the inflationary impact of such a policy. I mean, it was swift and it was devastating. But what we have seen is that that increase was not a one-off increase. Since June 2023, we have continued to see the upward movement in the price of petrol. And so you would ask yourself, if the hope was that that initial increase would settle the system and put the system on the path of sustainable progress, so what has happened? And what's the reason why we have to increase the price again? And even this month alone, I think that we have had about 2 increases. So the truth of the matter is that the policy anchor and what the government calls its economic foundational policy, I mean, I argue that they are wrong. The removal of subsidy on petrol was wrong. The floating of the naira was wrong. And as long as we continue to drive forward with these type of policies, the hardship will intensify, and it may indeed get out of control, just as the former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, had said. So that is where we are. the key problem is that the government is running on policies that would only lead in the direction that it is leading now, which is disruption, instability, and of course, extreme poverty for the people.
So just to clarify with you, you say that both policies that in a way kick-started the journey to where we are, that both policies are wrong. Do you mean that they are wrong in terms of they should not have been implemented at all, or maybe they were wrong because it was wrong timing for implementation?
Look, the right economic policy must be properly contextualized. Okay, so you cannot just define a policy as being good when, for instance, it does not fit properly in the context that it was introduced. So, so on that basis, the policy was wrong, and you can quibble whether it is based on the timing, but if you look at the effect that it has produced, you will definitely know that it is wrong. Now, one other area that people have talked about was whether there was enough competence in actually driving through the reform agenda. Now, that's another context that people have to look at. When we don't have enough competence in terms of policy making, and then and of course, in terms of governance, and then you introduce reforms that are very, very drastic, reforms that if you don't coordinate them very well, reforms that if you don't calibrate their impact on the economy and on the people very well, they will be like devastating blows, on the people and on the economy. This is what we have seen. Now, we've talked about fuel subsidy removal for so long. There was only once that I thought that maybe I should countenance that argument of removal of the subsidy. And that was in 2012 when the government came clean by saying that it was not winning the war against the smuggling of the products across the borders of the country, and that indeed the subsidy program that we had in Nigeria was essentially subsidizing the consumption of the products in the neighboring countries of Nigeria. So I thought that at that time, with the government being quite open to say that we cannot win this argument or this war on the basis that the state capacity is stressed to be able to do this. So I thought that, okay, maybe that honesty was important and it could help to pivot policy in a more effective direction once we ended the subsidy. But of course, we saw what happened. It's the government at that time could not pull through the policy, and we saw the retention of the subsidy on petrol. Subsequently, I thought that even at the basic level of openness, with Nigerians about the program, and more important, what exactly is the consumption level, and what is the financial outlay that the country has to deal with in terms of funding the program. Nobody knows. Year in, year out, we saw maybe during the budget making, a certain amount is set aside for subsidy. Before you go halfway through the year, you find out that the said amount on the program, has doubled, has tripled, and so on and so forth. So when you have a problem like that, you require a very, very studied approach to solving it. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
So I want to buy, let's say, a vehicle, and the price tag on it is 70 million naira. And then I checked my pocket and I found out, my bank account, and I found out that I only have about 35 million naira there, and so I cannot afford a vehicle that will cost 70 million. But then later on, I then researched and found out that that car was actually overpriced in the car shop that I went, and that in actual fact, this car actually sells for 30 million naira and not 75 million.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Akintunde.
So all of a sudden, you found out that now I can afford it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately, you know, because of time, we may have to wrap up the conversation here. But you've painted a very, you know, grim picture of where we are and where we're headed. I don't know if the Nigerian government and its advisors, you know, how they interpret it different, you know, but only time will tell. We would like that you join us once again, you know, hopefully in the near future to, of course, once again, talk about some of these things and other economic policies of the government. But for now, thank you very much for your time this morning. Thanks for sharing with us. We, of course, wish you a very brilliant day ahead.
All right. Thank you for having me.